Hey friends, it's Sam from DIY Huntress, and today I'm going to show you how I gave my parents' entryway closet a really awesome makeover. Let's get started. This project is sponsored by my friends at the Home Depot. My parents' house is a central hub for everything fun in our family, and we have a big family, which means that their entryway closet is also a central hub for everything. Their closet houses anything from cleaning supplies to shoes to jackets and lots of things that probably shouldn't even be in the closet to begin with. And since my workshop is in their backyard, that means that I contribute to a lot of the mess, so I really felt an obligation to help make over their closet and to make the situation a lot better. I don't even know where to begin in here. Now, there was a lot of stuff to tackle in this closet, so to make my life easier, I began by just pulling everything out and organizing it into piles based on category. So started making piles for us to sort through that were donation items or items that we could trash based on if we had multiple, and there were a lot of those. Why do we need 4 Swiffers? There were also a ton of items that we wanted to keep for safekeeping, but really didn't need right away, so we also moved those down to the new storage area that we made in the basement. Because there was so much little stuff to sort through, it was a lot easier to keep a box around and then sort those items into the box based on what we were keeping and what we weren't, and this is going to help me organize these into boxes later on as well. Mom, serious question. Do you have stock in Ziploc? Now, my parents do have a membership to a wholesale store, which I think is awesome, but sometimes we have so much stuff and it's a little overkill, so I did have my mom and dad kind of sift through piles of things that they felt like we could part with or donate, and that way when I cleaned up a little later, it was easier to organize. To be fair though, I know that I'm also a culprit in this, and I had a mess in this closet as well, and I ended up having about 2 boxes worth of stuff that needed to be stored back into my workshop or into my dad's garage. Now, one of the tools that really saved my backside on this entire project was my new 18-foot ladder from Gorilla, and I got this ladder as part of the prospective program and was originally going to use it for more of an outdoor project, but once I fit into this tiny little closet, I knew I needed something lightweight and compact, and this ladder seriously saved the day. And once I was done cleaning out the rest of the closet, it was time to move on to demoing. That was too easy. I feel like this thing is supposed to be screwed in and it's not. Although the bottom shelves were a little too easy to remove, the rest of the closet was a little more challenging, so I did bring out a mobile tool organizer to keep in the closet with me while I demoed, and this just had a few key items so that I didn't have to run back and forth to my workshop. But as always, if you want to learn more about this Husky tool organizer or any of the tools and materials that I use for this project, you can find a full tools and materials list as well as a step-by-step for this reno on my website by clicking on the link below this video. Now, in total honesty, I thought that this whole renovation would take me maybe 2 days, and the reason I thought this is because it looked like the previous homeowners installed these brackets just using screws into the drywall. And so I thought I would be able to remove the brackets from the wall, patch up those holes, and then paint the closet in one day, and then be able to install everything else on the second day. But I was wrong and ran into my first problem right about here. What did they do here? They installed these directly on the bare drywall, and then they mudded around. 101 on what not to do. Basically, what ended up happening is that the old homeowners installed these brackets against bare drywall, and then I guess decided they wanted to finish the drywall after the fact and ended up mudding around the brackets instead of finishing the drywall first and then installing the brackets. That being said, I did have to end up using a lot more compound than I thought I would have had to initially, and I did 1 coat, let it dry for a couple of hours, came back and did a 2nd coat, let that dry overnight, and then came back and sanded all of the drywall nice and flat the next day. So in the process of cleaning, I started to realize that the carpet was not actually fully attached to the floor, and I was really curious to see what was underneath it, and this is what I found. Seriously, why the carpet over this beautiful floor? I kind of feel like I'm in one of those HGTV shows where they roll up the carpet and hope to find hardwood floors underneath, and they do. Guess I don't need a drop cloth. I was honestly really surprised to see hardwood floor underneath the carpeting. I was mostly just shocked that there was carpeting hiding the hardwood floor to begin with, so I decided to just leave the carpeting down to protect the floor while I painted, and I got started by using some leftover paint from our basement renovation for the closet. It is seriously amazing what a new coat of paint does to a space. The lighting in this closet was absolutely horrific, and then once I started painting the walls in the white color, it just brightened the entire space so much. After a couple of hours though, and 2 coats of paint, I was really happy with the way the room looked, and then I permanently removed the carpet from the floor. Now, while the paint was drying in the closet, my mom and I assembled some cubbies, and at this point I was impatient and wanted to see how they would fit in the room, so I pulled the cubbies into the closet and quickly realized that I made a mistake in measurement. Oh crap. It doesn't fit with the trim on. So for probably the first time in my life, my impatience actually did pay off here, because I realized very quickly that the cubbies didn't fit because I didn't measure from the baseboards. I actually just measured from the wall. So I did have to go in with a saw and cut away the baseboard to create a little nook for the cubby to sit in. And since I had just painted the walls, this made touching everything up really easy after the fact. But ultimately, once that nook was cut out, I then installed the cubby into it, and I repeated the same exact steps on the other side of the closet as well. I also took some time here to cut and paint the trim to make those prefab cubbies look like custom built-ins. The next day, it was time to work on some of the custom items, and in order to make my life easier and to not have to walk back and forth between the shed shop and the front of the house, I did use my brand new rolling tool system to store some of my more important building items so that I could set up shop on my parents' front patio. In all honesty, I don't know what I would have done without this rolling toolbox system, because it not only helped me bring all of my tools to the front of the house and then clean them up later, but I was also able to use it as a pseudo workbench in order to help me cut all of the pieces for the custom shelving. For the custom shelving, I did end up going with some 1x12 pine boards that I picked up at Home Depot, and I cut them to whatever varying lengths I needed to make the storage options in that closet work. And as you can see, I just cut all of those 1x12 shelving pieces using my circular saw and a carpenter square. Next, I took some time to give all of the boards a really light sanding because they were actually in pretty good shape, and then once they were all sanded, I brought them over to a small station at the front of the house where I then stained them. I did make sure to use a stain that dried within about an hour of time, that way I was still able to install them the same exact day that I built them. As the boards dried, it was time to install some of the other hardware into the closet, and I picked up all of this beautiful black hardware from Home Depot, and the first thing that I wanted to install was the closet rod, which I installed a lot higher in order to accommodate now those cubbies for the shoes on the bottom of the floor. Unfortunately, there were no studs available for the closet rod to be installed into, so I did use some drywall anchors and a level to make sure that everything looked beautiful. Next, it was time to install some matching shelving brackets, and I was actually able to install all of the brackets into studs, which made me feel a lot better because I don't know what's going to be stored on them just yet. And I just did this by pre-drilling my holes where I needed them to go, installing the brackets, and then using a level to make sure that everything looked good. And once the shelving brackets were installed and leveled, I then brought in those pine boards that I stained and were now dry, and then installed them to the brackets using screws. I also cut a couple of those pine boards for the top of the cubbies. I thought that that would pull the look together, and I installed those on top of those cubby units using some brad nails, and it just matched really perfectly. And once that first side of the closet was done, I then moved over to the other side of the closet and repeated the same exact steps. If there's one thing I did change after the fact, it's that when I was installing the shelving to the brackets, I was using silver screws, and I ended up hating that look, so I did switch them out after the renovation was complete. But like I mentioned earlier, if you are interested in any of the tools or the hardware that I used in this renovation, you can check out my materials list with links to all of the products on my website by clicking on the link below this video. In order to help make the space feel more open and more of like a walk-in closet, pseudo mudroom type of deal, I did leave a lot of space underneath that top shelf. And the reason I did this was to add some coat hooks because I wanted to hang all of the cleaning supplies like the mops and the brooms on the coat hooks instead of stacking them in a pile in the corner of the closet. I did end up going with a little bit of a trendier coat hook just because I wanted it to look cute, and I was really happy with my decision. I then wrapped some twine around the brooms and the mops and then hung them up that way. At this point, it was time to start bringing the essential items back into the closet, and I kept everything really organized by keeping items that are categorized into bins or boxes and then stacking things really neatly into nice piles or into the cubbies. And once everything was back in its rightful place, it was then time to bask in the glory of our brand new entryway closet, which is also kind of like a pseudo mudroom now. In all honesty, I wasn't going to share this entryway closet remodel with you guys just because I have never shared a closet remodel before, and I've done many of them, but after talking to my buddy Glenn from DIY Creators, who just renovated his parents' closet, he encouraged me to do so, and I'm so happy that I did. I mean, it's honestly pretty amazing what a coat of paint and some new shelving options can do to a space. To be fair, I know that there was a lot of stuff in that closet beforehand, so decluttering was key to this renovation, but we were able to fit every single thing back into this closet that we needed to. And I know it looks gorgeous for these photos, but if you hop on over to my Instagram account, I am spilling the beans on what it actually looks like on a day-to-day basis, and I'd love for you to check it out. In all honesty though, I and my parents could not be happier with this space, and this renovation would not have been possible without all of your support. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe for more projects in the future, and until next project, friends, happy DIYing.